I remember the exact moment when I realized I was no longer sure who I really was beneath all the layers I'd built. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon, the kind where the sky hangs low and heavy with clouds and the world feels like it's holding its breath. I was sitting in a cafe watching people pass by, all seeming so sure of themselves, while I felt like a shadow wearing someone else's skin. For years, I'd been wearing masks, carefully crafted versions of myself designed to fit into different spaces, please different people, and avoid conflict. At work, I was the confident, always in control woman who never let emotions slip. Around my family, I was the dutiful daughter who smiled through every disappointment. With friends, I was the funny, easygoing one who never got too serious. But inside, none of those felt quite like me. That day, staring out the rain-streaked window, I caught my reflection in the glass. It was a fractured image, like a puzzle with missing pieces. I hardly recognized the person looking back. The eyes were tired, the smile forced. I felt a sudden, piercing loneliness, as if I'd been hiding from myself for so long that I'd forgotten how to find my own face. I slipped out of the cafe and walked without direction, my footsteps splashing through puddles on cracked sidewalks. The city around me moved fast, but I felt suspended, caught in a moment that stretched and deepened. I realized how exhausting it was to keep up the charade, to constantly monitor what I said, how I behaved, and which mask I was wearing at any given time. That night I sat alone in my apartment, the silence pressing in. I pulled out an old journal I hadn't touched in years, its pages yellowed and fragile. The handwriting was different, more raw, less polished. As I read, I found fragments of myself I thought were lost, dreams, fears, moments of anger and hope. It felt like meeting a stranger who knew me better than anyone else ever had. The next few days were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I tried to keep my usual routines, but everything felt off. Small things, a song on the radio, a phrase in a book, would trigger memories of who I used to be or who I might be if I stopped pretending. It was painful and beautiful all at once, a strange kind of awakening that unsettled me to my core. I started to question every choice I'd made, the career path I'd followed because it was expected, the friendships I'd maintained out of obligation, the smiles I'd offered when I really wanted to scream. It was as if the walls I'd built around myself were crumbling, revealing a messy, vulnerable person underneath, someone I barely knew but was desperate to understand. One morning I looked in the mirror and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I let my guard down. No makeup, no rehearsed smile, no carefully styled hair, just me, raw and unfiltered. It was uncomfortable at first, the way the reflection seemed too honest, too unfamiliar. But as I watched, I noticed a flicker of something new, a spark of recognition, a hint of acceptance. I realized that the masks I wore were not just shields, but prisons, locking me away from my own truth. They had protected me from judgment, pain, and rejection, but they had also kept me from connection, real connection with others, and most importantly, with myself. The thought was both terrifying and liberating. Slowly, I began to experiment with peeling back the layers. At work, I let my voice shake during a meeting when I spoke about something I cared deeply about. With friends, I shared a fear I'd been hiding for years. With family, I admitted that I didn't have all the answers and that I sometimes felt lost. Each act of honesty was a small rebellion against the roles I'd been assigned. Not everyone responded well. Some were confused, some uncomfortable, and a few even pulled away. It hurt, but it also proved something important. The masks I'd worn hadn't been protecting me from the world. They'd been protecting me from being truly seen. And being seen meant risking rejection, but also opening the door to genuine connection. I found solace in new rituals, writing without censoring myself, walking in the woods where no one could see me, listening to music that stirred emotions I'd kept buried. These moments became acts of self-care and discovery, little windows into who I was becoming. It was a slow, uneven process, filled with setbacks and breakthroughs. One evening, I met someone who seemed to understand this journey without me needing to explain. We talked for hours about masks, fears, and the longing to be authentic in a world that often values perfection over truth. That conversation felt like a balm, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this complicated dance of identity. As the seasons changed, so did I. The masks didn't disappear overnight, nor did I want them all to go. Some were parts of me worth keeping, pieces of my personality forged through experience. But now, I was learning to choose when and why to wear each one, rather than letting them control me. There were days when the old habits crept back, the urge to hide pain behind a smile, to say what others wanted to hear rather than what I felt. But each time, I caught myself, reminded by the memory of that rainy afternoon and the fractured reflections staring back, that the only way forward was through honesty. This story isn't about arriving at some perfect final self. It's about the messy, ongoing process of peeling away the masks, facing the fears beneath, and embracing the beautiful, complicated person who emerges. It's about the courage to be vulnerable, the pain of loss, and the hope of finding a place where I can simply be. And as I write these words now, I'm still on that journey, still discovering new layers, still learning what it means to live without pretense. The masks are still there, but they no longer define me. Instead, they serve as reminders of how far I've come and the freedom that comes from choosing to be myself, no matter what the world expects. Sometimes I catch myself smiling at my reflection in a way that feels genuine, not forced. It's a small victory, a quiet celebration of the ongoing process of self-discovery. And I know that while the road ahead is uncertain, it's mine to walk, unmasked and unafraid. I wonder what the next chapter of this story will hold. Will I find others willing to shed their masks alongside me? Will I face new challenges that test my resolve? The questions swirl, but for once, I'm not afraid to sit with the unknown. Because I've learned that beneath every mask is a story worth telling, a truth worth facing. So here I am, still walking, still searching, still peeling back the layers. The masks are part of my past, but they're no longer my prison. They're a reminder of the courage it takes to be vulnerable, the strength it takes to be honest, and the freedom it takes to be truly, unapologetically me. And maybe that's the real discovery, the realization that selfhood isn't a fixed point, but a living, breathing journey. One that requires patience, grace, and the willingness to keep looking in the mirror, even when the reflection isn't what I expected. I don't know where this path will lead, but I do know that I'm done running from myself. The masks will always be there to choose from, but now I hold the power to decide when they serve me and when they hold me back. That choice feels like freedom, like coming home after a long, wandering night. And so the story continues, unfolding, shifting, and growing, just like me. Each day brings new challenges, new chances to be authentic, and new moments to embrace the messy, beautiful truth of who I really am beneath the masks. I'm learning that self-discovery isn't about perfection or final answers. It's about showing up, being honest, and daring to be seen even when it's hard. The masks may never fully disappear, but they no longer scare me. Instead, they remind me of the strength it takes to be real. And maybe, just maybe, that's the greatest mask of all, the one that hides our fear of being truly known. But when we let it fall away, we find that who we are is enough, just as we are. No more hiding, no more pretending, just the messy, beautiful, imperfect self shining through. So here I stand, not fully healed, not fully whole, but fully me. And that feels like the bravest thing I've ever done. The masks may have been a part of my story, but they will never define the person I'm becoming. I'm ready to keep walking this path, eyes open, heart wide, and mask in hand, choosing when to wear it and when to let it fall away. Because the journey of self-discovery is endless, and that's what makes it so precious, so real, and so alive. And as I move forward, I carry the hope that others might find the courage to do the same, to look in the mirror, face their own masks, and discover the strength that comes from being unapologetically themselves. Because in the end, the masks we wear don't protect us from the world, They protect us from ourselves. And letting them go is the first step toward finding the freedom to truly live. So here's to the masks, the ones we've worn, the ones we'll shed, and the ones we'll choose to keep. They're part of our story, but they don't have to be our whole story. The real story is what lies beneath. And as I take a deep breath and step into the next moment, I remind myself that every step, no matter how uncertain, is a step closer to the person I'm meant to be. The rain has stopped now, and the sky is clearing. The world looks different somehow, brighter, more open. And maybe that's how it feels when you start to live without your masks, a little scary, but full of endless possibility. I don't know where this path will lead, but I'm no longer afraid to walk it. The masks have lost their power over me, and that feels like the greatest freedom of all. And so my story goes on, unfolding one honest moment at a time, one brave choice at a time, one genuine smile at a time. The masks may still be there, but the real me is finally ready to shine through. This is just the beginning of a new chapter, a new way of living, a new way of being. And I'm here for it, ready to face whatever comes next, unmasked and unafraid. Because the masks we wear don't have to hide our true selves, they can help us find the courage to reveal them. And that, I've learned, is the most powerful mask of all.